What's up, y'all? We here, we live once again, kicking it at the Shisha Lounge, and I am joined once again by my co-host and my partner in crime, Quasi Lowe. My fault, Quasi Lamar, and we also have a special guest, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Cause I don't think she ever been on the radio, so she acted kind of shy. So we're gonna have to bring her up out of that, y'all. So hey. Because here on Giami Journey FreeStyle Fridays, we get it in and we got a whole bunch of stuff to cover, even though we don't know exactly what direction we're going to go in because, of course, we believe in letting the vibe lead, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to allow whatever to emerge, and we're going to kick it. But, of course, first, I got to send out shots to those things that I love. As soon as I find my page, I know y'all know I'm always usually ready. But, I was tired. I wanted to get this out and get this show on. And since I'm on here, I feel alive once again. So, I encourage everybody out there, get your own Spreaker station. Start blogging. Start putting your information out because you never know what you never know what you have to say. You never know how it's going to affect somebody else. So get out there. Put your words out there. Do more than to complain on Facebook. Put your shit out there so that the world can see it and smell it. And that smell might save somebody's life. It might wake somebody up. So I'm going to let Quasi go and do his personal little introduction. Then we're going to introduce our guest. Then I'm going to talk about those things I love. And we're going to jump right into the show.
Niggas. Yo, what's happening? That's in one word, that's what I'm thinking today. That's what's been on my mind the last week or two. Well, I say nigga 76 times every morning before I brush my teeth, So, shouts to Paul Mooney. He brought it to you first. Well, he reintroduced you to the term, and I'm going to reintroduce you once again. That's been on my mind, so that's going to definitely be one of the topics that we talk about tonight is the word niggas. And I got an interesting perspective on it. I don't know if anybody considered it, but I'm just wondering why that word is still... Oh, my bad. I was about to go too deep. You want to say something? Okay, you sure? Okay, Introduce yourself. You're going to have some words to say. Let everybody know who's going to be speaking to them tonight. Introduce yourself.
Hey y'all, my name is Whitney. That's about it. I'm Whitney. Yeah, Whitney. Um, I'm a student. I'm a student and a mom. That's all I do. Yeah.
Word. A student at Ohio State. That's where we kind of reconnected. We had met, a few times throughout the process of going to school and being on the poetry scene. So she was definitely a part of this conversation that we was having today. So, oh, okay. Just questions flying around the studio, the Shisha Lounge studio. So, yo, kick it off. Where we going?
All right, first sending out shots to those things we love. I want to send out some shots to Oxy Water, the world's first oxygen-enhanced mineral water. Of course, you need to try that Oxy Water Black. That's my favorite. Then we got Oxy Water Pink, Shade Pomegranate, Island Citrus, and Passion Berry. You could go to www.tryoxywater.com. Also sending out shots out to Orange 82, an electronic music label. I call it surfing music. So whenever I'm getting tired like I am now, I put on some of their music. Like you heard, I've Had Enough. And that was put together by Orange 82, especially for us. So here we go. You can hit them up at www.orange82.com. Also want to send shouts out to Shisha Lounge. We at 2369 North High Street. We like to do it live. We like to do it with the energy flowing around. We got some brothers over here playing chess. We got people over here doing hookahs. And, Quasi say he got next on the board, but I hope you don't go over there and embarrass us. All right. Also, I want to send out shots to Unidaji Capoeira, up under the stewardship of Monitor Dentista, who does very hard workshops. And he just got back from South Carolina. They had a Batu Salad. We kind of fell off there for a second. So hopefully you ain't missed all of that. I'm not going to go back through all that. But, now we're going to get into the subjects at hand because, of course, y'all know Quasi fell in love with the word nigga again. And we're going to have this a discussion around this word. And we're going to see what comes up out of it because I know that word kind of grates some of y'all ears. So let me say it again. Nigga. Just something about that word. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people have a love-hate relationship with it. What's your relationship to it?
Personally, I guess I got to say I do have a love-hate relationship with it. I feel mixed energy whenever I use the word, you know what I mean? And I know I use it in different ways. I can use it to uplift and I can use it to tear down, you know what I'm saying? That's another reason why it's a powerful word. It's not the only word in the English language that had that type of, that commands that type of authority, you know what I mean? So my question is, why are people so afraid of the word, you know what I mean? So before we go into that, I want to give a shout out to let me edit that. I want to give a special shout out to all the brothers and sisters that are attending the Ohio State University, one of the most prominent universities on the planet, one of the most quote-unquote diverse places you will ever be, with a lot of the most diverse subject matters and topics you could ever discuss. But, and there is a big ass but, from a particular perspective, there's a lot of perspectives that don't seem to want to be acknowledged, and one of them is niggas. I happen to work at the Multicultural Center. I might get fired for even talking about this, but fuck it, you know. But the reason that this topic kind of came to mind is at the Multicultural Center. As you can imagine, it's a multicultural center at the Ohio State University. So the purpose is to promote inclusion and safety, and for people to be able to have a place at the university where they can come if they're not necessarily part of the dominant culture, or even if they are part of it. By me saying that, it's kind of watered down, or maybe that's my opinion. But It's a place that represents people that don't necessarily have a voice. But to me, it seemed like the place is kind of watered down, like I said, and it seems to be kind of sterile. And I would even say it has a very temporary agenda to promote peace for right now. And it seems to, at the same time, be problematic for peace in the future. One of the words that popped up. There's a wall. I sit at the desk, and it's a work study. It's a work study job. So basically, I'm supposed to be doing homework. I be on Facebook a lot. You know, I'm gonna admit it. I'm addicted. But there's a wall right there. I look at this wall all day, and there's so many different terms. You got black, white, Asian, education, multiculturalism. You got so many different words and concepts. But one of the main words that's up there that really sticks out to me is the word queer. Now, if you don't know the history of the word queer, it was originally, I don't want to say necessarily originally, but it became popular and dominant as a word that was oppressive to homosexual people in this country. And, you know, I'm definitely very sensitive to oppression to any people. And I actually congratulate them for turning that word into a positive for their culture. But that brings to mind, to me, the word nigga. The word nigga has been used throughout the world as an oppressive term for centuries, whereas the word queer has probably been used as an oppressive term for decades. You know, and it has now emerged as a word of power and as a word of inclusion, as a word that people use as a term of endearment within that culture. So I'm like, why doesn't the word nigga get that same type of respect or that same type of appreciation? And one thing that comes to mind off top is, what type of power would that give to that culture if that word was institutionally recognized? You know, what type of problems also would it present people that use the word nigga? Because, you know, a lot of, I want to go ahead and consider the culture of people that use the word nigga as something that the dominant culture would probably consider a deviant culture. So if that word was embraced by the dominant culture, or even not necessarily embraced, but at least accepted by the dominant culture, let's first off ask the question, what impact would that have on the nigga culture?
Well, first, the dominant culture can't embrace that word because one of the major problems that would happen is that every time they spoke it, they probably speak it in the wrong place at the wrong time, and one of those people that would be in there would knock the fuck out of them, Quasi. I mean, so of course, why would you want to embrace a word that's gonna cause you to be hurt? I don't want to say no words that's gonna put me in a situation where I have to kick ass or get ass kicked. You know, so of course, we don't have to really worry about the dominant culture accepting it, because history shows us that what black folks decide on, what they decide they're going to use, everybody else follow along. Look at hip-hop. Look at soul music. Look at R&B. Look at jazz. You know what I'm saying? For example, we go back, and since we're talking about words, a lot of people don't understand the word man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't know that the way that man is used nowadays, when I be like, what's up, man? How you doing today? That comes from the bebop, out of jazz, the bebop era. Because back then, black men and black musicians couldn't go in the front door, and they was constantly disrespected. So the question that a club owner might ask when the jazz musician is, you boys playing here tonight? So what the bebop generation did in jazz, they decided to start calling each other man. Hey, man, how you doing today? Hey, man, so that they could reaffirm their manhood amongst themselves. You know what I'm saying? And eventually it became part of not only bebop culture, but eventually dominant culture started using the word man in the way that bebop did. So we have already shown that any word that we are accepting of as a group, people will accept. You know what I'm saying? We don't really realize our own power. So if we was to really truly embrace the word nigga, then the world would embrace the word nigga. But that's an in-house issue that we have to deal with. Okay? So my word on that.
In-house issue, and I totally agree with you on that, you know, and that just kind of goes to a deeper level of, you know, that's some in-house shit. I'm not going to get all the way into that because it's probably some outside motherfuckers listen to this, and I definitely understand.
Hey, you can't be cussing on the show more than me. I'm just joking. Now it's our show. We can cuss as much as we want. So go on, let it flow. I'm just messing.
What I meant to say was outside people. Outside people. Outside motherfuckers. I meant people. But
Don't
it's
be sexist. What about the father fuckers?
I don't fuck with them. Yo, hey, unless they, oh. Well, we was talking about, anyways, before I offend everybody, nobody want to listen to the damn show no more. I was talking about the difference between in groups and out groups. I take a social psychology class, and that is by far the favorite class that I have taken in my college career. We hit on so many issues that really make. I get to be in a class with about 100 kids, and there's about 3 black folks. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 4. And I am extremely vocal. I sit in the front row. We talk about shit like racism and discrimination. You know what I mean? So, like, actually, now that I think about it, I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not once standing up and just saying niggas and sitting my ass back down. You know what I mean? But I feel really free when I say some things that are challenging to the general perception of I guess the course of the class. You know what I mean? Because it's a certain projection that we talk about. Obviously, the purpose of that class is for people to pass the class. It's not necessarily for us to share opinions, and so that goes kind of along the lines of like the word nigga that we talking about. It's like, okay, we could talk about it, but it's already been mandated. This is what you're supposed to think. This is how you're supposed to use it, and if you use it, then you're not a part of society at large. You know what I'm saying? So that's a really interesting question, like, because I'm under the impression that American black people are kind of have a very instrumental role in what happens with humanity. And that word right there, if that word was to really be embraced, let's talk about that shit on Fox News. You know what I mean? Let's talk about that on the O'Reilly Factor. Like, what type of ways would that shake up? And how will people wake up and really want to start to have a whole different conversation around, what are you reaching for? The mic? Are you reaching out? Okay, I'm about to hit the hookah.
I don't know if they will be able to bring that out on Fox News or the O'Reilly Factor, because O'Reilly probably get his ass kicked. You know what I'm saying? Because there's still a lot of us very sensitive about that word. So being an in-house issue, we might have to start with Smiley and West discussing it. We might have to start with 106 in Park discussing the use of the word, because it's in-house. You know what I'm saying? So let's when we talk about in-house, I'm talking about it's something that black folks have to come to terms with and be comfortable with. And that word, for many people, is a word of oppression. But you brought up the whole queer piece, where the gay brothers and sisters have decided that they are going to use their resilience. They're going to be anti-fragile to that word. So they took that word queer and they made it their own. So now that word doesn't have the effect that it historically had, because they decided as a group that we're going to take the power from this word. And I think what a lot of young folks did in my generation and prior to, going back to Richard Pryor and the comedians and people like that, they took the power of that word and they took some of that sting out of it by the use of it. And I think that's kind of what we're doing. But some people in our community are still hypersensitive to the word. They're sensitive to the word, and they're giving more power to the word without doing some of the stuff that you're talking about doing it. Because to have a discussion about the word nigga, we got to look at the historical use of it. We got to look at the historical roots of it, and then accept it as a group or as a small group within the group and use it, because it's already used everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I got to stop kids in my class from using it. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of hard for me to stop them when they saying it, because I use it. So it's kind of hypocritical that many of us use it in private and use it in conversations like me and you are having. But then we go into these public places and we got to kind of pull back on the word, because somebody is hypersensitive. It's like being hypersensitive to the word high. Every time you say hi, somebody they would be sensitive to the word when it's just a fucking word. You know what I'm saying? And the word has the power that you give it. Nigga lost the power to hurt me a long time ago. Now, the word that does bother me is nigger. When you stress that ER on the end, you know what I'm saying? That for some reason, that shit just takes me to another place. You know what I'm saying? Because first off, that let me know that you coming from outside of my culture. You know what I'm saying? And you taking a word, you warping a word, and you're using it in a way that is hazardous to me. You're trying to throw some verbal magic on me. And I could throw some verbal magic back, or we get straight into the physical magic, and one of us going to walk away with an ass kicking, right?
Hell yeah. You know what I mean? Because I use the word, I'll even use the word nigger with the ER, and when I use it, I'm making a specific point. Oh, shit, hold up. I'm about to get punched over here, but when I use it, I'm making a point. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually highlighting the fact that those are two different words. They have two different meanings, and in this English language, we use in any language, words have meanings behind them. It's a concept. When you use a word, you're highlighting the concept. Something greater that you could probably use 1,000 words or 1,000 ideas could be highlighted in one word. So I think another way to look at it and to get a better understanding is to look at the origin of the word. I did a little bit of research earlier, and one of the words that stuck out to me is it was a Hindu or Indian word, and it's Naga, Naga, and it means serpent king, actually. And that kind of tied into what instantly came to my mind was the biblical meaning of the word serpent. And it talks about, when you talk about the serpent in the biblical term, you automatically think of the woman and the serpent saying something to the woman and basically giving her knowledge that by biblical understanding, it says that she took that knowledge and basically did something corrupt with it. But then I thought about it because, you know me, I like to use this thing that I have called a brain. I'm sorry, y'all. I like to use it. But I personally think that an empowered woman puts a lot of pressure on a man to potentially be better. So how does the man respond to that empowered woman? And in this society, especially a black woman, the biggest thing they're scared of is an empowered group of black women on the same accord. Black women on the same accord with the same agenda and with knowledge. That could turn everything on its head if you have a bunch of educated black women with a unified concept.
I want to be careful when we use the word educated. Now, be clear on the word educated. Are you talking about school sense, book sense? Are you talking about the true root, since we get into the roots of the word? Are you talking about the true root of the word education, which means pulled from within?
And I definitely think that the second definition that you use, pull from within. I gotta unify my thoughts because I ain't heard. We had that discussion, before a couple times, I'm sure. But when I think about my education, my primary education is from the streets, and not just like on some hood shit, and but more so learning people's emotions and how they feel and how that relates to how they contribute to their environment. You know what I mean? So my primary education was a thirst for understanding people. So when I go to class, a lot of times I don't give a fuck about the test. I just want to get this information so I could use that education or that information to further my inner understanding, or my inner question is even a better way to put that. Like questions that are pulling on me from within, and the information that I get from the institution is filling in gaps and helping me further my understanding of why I am conditioned in the way that I am, and why I'm a nigga, and why I embrace that, and why the establishment, for lack of a better word, or a concept, do what you may with that concept, but why the establishment seems to be so anti-nigga. And a lot of times, the people that some of our historical black leaders, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, they have kind of went on the offensive to want to make us erase that word. And yeah, hopefully you hear this. I'm calling you out. Yep, respond to it. But what's the counter effects of us squashing that word? Is it cutting off a whole line of understanding and a whole education process of something that we could pull from within ourselves to use that word and that concept to better ourselves and further ourselves?
I think the problem with that is that we're not using. We use the word as a term of endearment, but it's also used so often and so frequently as a negative and derogatory term towards each other. Like within the black community, people use it in a negative way. So when people outside of that community hear it, they automatically assume a negative. They assume you're using it in a negative way when you say it. So when people of other races hear that word, that's automatically what they think. They don't see it as a term of endearment. So I think that's the biggest problem. Is to first stop. I mean, you got to stop using it in a negative way, because it's never going to be a term of endearment only if it's always being used in a negative way. It's always going to have that background attached to it if we're using it in a negative way.
I agree with you, because it's just as easy to hear somebody say fuck that nigga as it is to hear somebody say that's my nigga.
Okay, in that case, then, I mean, let's erase the word boy. You see what I'm saying? Because I could use boy as a term of endearment for my son, or I could disrespect somebody and call him boy. All words, all creations of men and women have negative and positive ramifications. To erase the positive side of something would eradicate that whole thing. You can't eradicate one side without eradicating the other. So the entire word has to be embraced, because there's many words in the English language that has, all of them have negative and positive sides to them. So if nigga is going to be a word that's used, we have to be able to deal with both sides of that. You know, he brought up one of the root words of the word nigga. I mean, because a lot of people, we don't really understand the word. I mean, because he went all the way to Sanskrit. He looked up the word naga. Also, you can go to Ethiopia and you can look up the word niggas. That's closer to nigga. Niggas means king. You know what I'm saying? Then also we got to remember that a lot of us was caught by the Niger River. You throw another G on there, you got nigger. You know what I'm saying? You take an ER off, you got nigger. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us may have came from Nigeria, the home of the original nigger. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, we have to be clear in the use of it. And I will argue the point also that the dominant culture don't recognize the nigga, because now white boys is calling each other's niggas. You know what I'm saying? Because the word has grown beyond us. Just like our fashion, just like our music, just like anything we touch, the word has moved beyond us. I was in Africa, and this is a funny story. I'm riding in the car, and the guy that was driving me around showing me Ghana, he saw one of his friends, and he said, roll your window down. I rolled my window down. He reached across. He said, hey, what's up, my nigga? Hey. And I looked at him. I was like, he said, oh. Nigga is a word that we use to identify positive things. Black people can use the word nigga, right? I'm like, oh, but I didn't expect to come all the way across the sea to hear one young black man call another black man nigga. But at that point in time, I realized that the word was far beyond the American experience. Because a lot of people have not heard that word in a negative context. They have heard it in the positive context as well. So, that's my take on it. So,
and plus, the word niggas is big, like you said. I would imagine, I would go as far as to say, I ain't been around the world. Actually, I ain't even left the country. But within this country, a lot of different cultures I've come across embrace that word. And a lot of people on the other end are fitting into that category on a derogative term. So that automatically brings to mind what's happening in Boston. How could we not talk about it? We got a couple niggas. Did I do that? I'm sorry, y'all. I had to switch it because they got a nigga in custody. Hey, I'm sorry if I offended your culture, but fuck it, you my nigga. You know what I'm saying? How is that going to affect racial tension in this country? Because what we're talking about right now is racial tension. We're talking about a trigger word. So how is what's going on in Boston right now? How is that going to? How is your culture, whoever is listening? How is your culture going to be affected by what's going on? And how is being outside of the dominant culture and maybe being assumed to be some type of character or you fit the description is what basically the larger conversation is. How is that? How is all of that playing out? Did I go too far? Did I do too much? Is that a connectable?
I mean, this is Gianni's journey. Whatever emerges. This is an emergent experiment. So somehow my brother jumped from the word nigga to niggas blowing up people for absolutely no reason. Now, I want to talk about Boston for this fact, because what this is saying to me is now we have what's called domestic terrorism going on in America. And for all we know, there's a lot more going on. You know what I'm saying? And the question that we got to ask is, what's going on in America that individuals and the quote-unquote top society in the world, the most powerful country in the world, what's going on that is making people so unhappy, so depressed, so angry that they will blow up innocent people?
Yes, obviously, I mean, first word that comes to my mind is oppression or suppression, some type of oppression. It's making an impression, you know what I mean? So apparently they felt, well, okay, wait a minute, let me take a step back. This is America, and you are innocent until proven guilty. So apparently the suspect or whoever the person guilty for this atrocity, was trying to make a point. So automatically everybody's going in. I'm looking at Facebook. Everybody is like, yeah, we caught his ass, fry him. We about to deep fry his ass, give him what he deserved. First of all, what happened to due process? But let's say he did do it. What is he trying to say? What would make a person... He didn't even leave Boston. They didn't even leave Boston. What would make a person commit an act where they were pretty much knowing that they were either going to die in that scene or at best get arrested and spend the rest of their life in jail, but probably get executed? You know what I mean? What is this person trying to say? Like, how are we just going straight to jumping to conclusions and saying that this person did something horrendous, which they did do something horrendous? I'm not advocating violence, but I am advocating a voice. And obviously this person felt that his voice, or whoever the perpetrator was, felt that their voice wasn't adequate, so they had to go to other means.
And one of the things I was thinking about this morning when I first heard about them catching the guys in Boston, the first thing I started thinking about is, what if they wanted to get caught? You know what I'm saying? Because when we look at terrorism, at the root of terrorism is the fact that somebody is feeling so oppressed, or as you said, some type of oppression, whether it's oppression or suppression, they're feeling so pressed that they feel that the only way they could be heard is by an act of violence. And what's going on in America? Well, let me point out some things. Could it be the healthcare system? Could it be the economic system? Could it be the falsification of education? Could it be the socialization that's going on in the schools? What's going on in America? How about politics? You know what I'm saying? We need to get to the bottom of what they're saying, because if we do not listen to the message that was sent by this group, by these two, by this individual, by whoever did this, if we don't listen and if we don't get the message, then what's going to happen is that more acts of violence is going to happen. Now, I asked this question earlier, and I don't want anybody that heard my question to answer this, but how do you stop terrorism? How do you stop a terrorist? The simple answer to stopping a terrorist is give them something to live for. Because when I start committing acts of terrorism, I'm not planning. I mean, because you got to really think. I mean, we got to really get inside the head of a terrorist. When you start committing acts of terrorism, by the time you get to the point of doing violence, you already have given your life to something. So now, what if America was to start giving people something to live for? What if in Afghanistan, instead of blowing up these motherfuckers, we start giving their kids PlayStations and shit? You know what I'm saying? We start introducing them to the lifestyle that we claim that they want. You know what I'm saying? What will happen? We start giving people things to live for. Once you give somebody something to live for, they'll stop throwing their lives away. It's very simple. It's very simple. So now my question is, what is going on here that would make somebody want to throw their life away?
The thing that's going on in America that makes people so angry and that makes people want to do these things is exactly what you said. People in other places don't have anything to live for. In America, we have too much to live for and we take it for granted. So when the people in other countries see that, it makes them angry. The problem in America right now is that people are so wrapped up in everything that they have that they don't care. They don't care about those people in Africa who don't have X, Y, and Z. They're more so worried about what they have. Even with the bombing that happened, even the bombing, people are concerned. They're worried about it. They have their opinions about it. But do they really care? What are they really going to do to change anything like this? What are they going to do to change, the people who feel this angry inside? Nothing. And that's the sad part about it. They're not going to do anything about it. They just want, like you said, they want to see him fry. They want to see him pay for it. But they're not doing anything to stop it from happening in the first place. And it's because everybody's selfish. Everybody's wrapped up in themselves. And that's the sad truth.
You bring another depression to mind, depression. Something that, especially in my community where I come from, nobody wants to talk about depression, you know what I mean? And I definitely have experienced depression, like long-term depression, and I said it. I have been depressed. I'm coming out of a depression, you know what I'm saying? And like, it's a beautiful place. The reason I came out of depression because I acknowledged that I was depressed. But most people want to suppress depression, you know what I mean? And then shit blows up, literally and figuratively, you know what I mean? So I think that just ties into a lot of this, like, we talking about what is it in America that's making people want to do these things. Maybe we're lying to ourselves. It seems both of y'all have highlighted that we're not being honest with ourselves about our contribution to what's happening in the world. It's a lot easier to say that this guy, I can't even pronounce his name, the suspect that apparently who is being suspected of having committed this heinous act. I would imagine that this man was depressed. You know what I'm saying? And he relieved himself. They relieved themselves if what's being accused is true. So it's like, what type of acts need to be taken? What type of measures need to be taken so people can feel better? And I just find it interesting that there was a house, the United States House, I don't know, House of Representatives, whatever. They passed this act. It's CISPA, CISPA. Look it up. It's a cybersecurity bill. Nobody's talking about that. That's just another way for people's information to be tapped into, and another reason for people to maybe feel like they need to hide, maybe contributing to this whole idea of people hiding, and maybe even hiding their depression. And as we see, depression comes out. You can't hide it forever.
Now, and another thing that you got to understand about a terrorist mind state, or about a depressed mind state, or about when you have absolutely nothing to live for, and people are trying to, as you say, suppress that. One of the things that you find in nature is that when you try to suppress something, it often grows stronger. I'm reading a book called Anti-Fragility. I think it's called Anti-Fragility. And the dude, he quoted an old Irish war song where they say, the higher you build your barricades, the stronger we become. The more you try to go out and crush this stuff with violence and things like that, they don't do nothing but make them stronger. So every time we bomb somewhere in Afghanistan, and we kill somebody's cousin, or we kill somebody's auntie, or we kill somebody's mother, or we kill somebody's father, we are building more and more enemies. Every time our international policy is suppressing one group so another group can rule, we are building enemies within our country and outside our country. And as long as that stuff is going on, we always gonna have problems. So I just want to bring that. But then a whole nother piece is, for me, some people are really starting to realize the situation that we are in America. Now, a lot of people don't want to acknowledge this, but many of us are nothing but wage slaves. We all are one paycheck away from total destruction of our personal lives. And all it takes is for that one check not to come, for a few people to snap. For that American dream or that American illusion that's been put out in front of us to vanish, and all of a sudden I have absolutely nothing to live for. When you got 98% of the people, 98% of the people living in a state where they cannot keep up. I'm talking about the basics. I ain't even talking about a lot of the luxuries. They can't even keep up. You're going to have and develop angry people. When somebody realizes that they are working in a job that they hate to buy shit that they don't need, and they really start rebelling against that shit, that rebellion is going to take on many different faces. And I know many of y'all saying that's their fault. I mean, but really think about your own situation. Really, we got a what's called a democracy here, but most of us don't even know that it's 144,000 people out of the 330 million Americans that actually decide what policies are debated in our political system. Your vote, when it comes down to it, really don't count, because you know why? Your vote is not accompanied with no money. We got 144,000 deciding what's going to happen for 330 million of us. We got motherfuckers in Congress. We got people in the Senate who don't have to worry about these fucking medical bills. And I still don't hear nobody talking about the real problem with the medical system, because the medical system is one of the things that fucks us up the most. If I was to walk out of here and get hit by a car, even though I got insurance, I am going to be broke. And I'm going to be working the rest of my life to pay off that accident with insurance. And I'm going to lose my job probably because I can't work. I can write and I can talk, but shit, that ain't paying yet. I'm going to still do that because I enjoy doing it. But the point that I'm trying to make is this. When you got 144,000 people deciding for 330 million what's right, what's wrong, and going around the world and fucking up the other 6 billion, how else are they supposed to feel? You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't mean to go off on that, but I mean, we got to really think about the situation that we are in. How do we change this? The only ones that can change it, the change has to come from the bottom up. We got all these administrations sending ideas down. None of them are struggling like any of us in this room right now. None of them. They talk about how they used to struggle, but as we all know, times change, because the shit for my son right now is a lot different than it was for me. So, anybody else want something to say before we have to tune out, because we got about 2 more minutes left?
Word, 2 minutes. All I want to say is, this is some next show type of shit. The American political system is dead. It's deceased. It's flatline. I did voter registration, community politics, and encouraging people to vote, and I actually had to go out and publicly apologize for doing that shit, because through that process, I realized that shit was a fruitless endeavor, and I was getting paid pretty good to go around and sell people false dreams, thinking that their vote matters. And I learned that shit does not matter. You know what I mean? I'm sure I'm going to offend somebody and piss somebody off good. Comment. I dare you. But that's next week.
All right, and we'll probably get back on that word nigga conversation, and it was real good conversating with you. I want to give our guest, Ms. Whitney, an opportunity to go and say her goodbyes. And she can send us out on Facebook because I know you got about 2,000 friends.
I really enjoyed this. I definitely want to do this again. It's really enlightening to hear you guys' points of views on different things. So you guys will definitely be hearing from me again, hopefully soon. So yeah.
Well, we probably here every Friday night. Every now and then we going to miss because we be tired and shit. You know what I'm saying? But this is what we do. I'd like to thank y'all for joining us on the journey. And with that, I say peace.